Hey, it's Adrienne Lawrence, and welcome to The Conversation. Today, joining me, I have the founder of Revolve Fund. That's James Wahls. Thanks for joining us, James.
Thank you for having me.
All right, James, so what's this fund? What's going on?
So Revolve is an aggregate of philanthropic dollars and then intentionally putting it out as recoverable grants to support BIPOC-led businesses and nonprofits.
Oh, fantastic. And forgive me, I said revolve, forgive me. Yeah, so what made you want to start this fund?
So I bring 15 years of impact investing, legal and business experience. And one of the things that I always saw was there was a gap when it comes to friends and family financing. So I wanted to try to explore and use the grant tool that foundations have and push it further and see if we can find ways to kind of fill that gap.
Okay, and so when you're talking about this gap here, I guess let me ask you, why does it matter?
So I think it's critical as we kind of think about closing the racial wealth gap or increasing wealth in BIPOC communities. Oftentimes you need capital to create more capital. And so if you look at household wealth, it's disproportionately lower in BIPOC communities. So what we wanted to do is figure out a way to infuse capital in a non-extractive manner and using a grant tool to do that.
Okay, and so kind of break it down for us. How does it work?
Sure. So foundations and other philanthropic donors give their capital or give grants to Revolve. We then intentionally identify community strategies. We work with partners within communities and also just directly receive inquiries from folks, and we provide those grants. And so what is it? It looks like more like traditional grant making, but we put financial milestones in. So when our grantees hit those financial milestones, they return the capital and then we can recycle it back into community.
Wow, and that sounds like it's something, as you mentioned, is much needed, particularly in non-white communities here in the US. And so, can you talk a little bit more about that disparity right now that you are trying to use Revolve Fund to try to address?
Yeah. So when you look at the Capital Continuum, oftentimes there are a lot of programs, especially targeted towards entrepreneurs and nonprofits led by people of color, where they give business support, technical assistance, and a small amount of capital. As those entities begin to grow, then it becomes a need of more capital. And you can't typically go to banks to get that capital gap, let's say between $25,000 to $100,000. Because it's not cost effective for banks oftentimes to provide that type of loan. Often also, if you look at community development financial institutions or CDFIs who are typically community lenders, they work like banks oftentimes. And so there has to be a way to allow entrepreneurs to kind of get over that friends and family capital gap and then get into the capital continuum of debt if they're looking to get debt, or if they're looking to get equity or venture capital to go into those spaces as well. And so what Revolve does is identify really great models that are being led by BIPOC entrepreneurs or nonprofit leaders and provide them that kind of push capital to get them over the hump so they can then go get the traditional CDFI loan or the traditional bank loan, or they're looking to get equity to go get that venture capital.
All right, wow. And so since starting your fund, have you found essentially the reception to be very welcoming?
Absolutely. So, fortunately, I've been able to work with a number of my previous partners when I had roles in impact investing. And so that's been able to open up some doors for us. We've been able to, again, identify some community groups have been receptive of the idea. And then funders such as JP Chase, PNC Bank, Rockefeller, Open Society Institute, Baltimore office, and others, including the NEKC Foundation, have been able to provide us that initial pilot capital that we need to kind of kick off this pilot.
All right, and so in terms of finding individuals that you'd like to fund or to invest, what has the process been like?
So we have done open calls. We have reached out into community. We have talked to some of the financial intermediaries within communities to identify potential deal flow, and all of those ideas have worked. In particular, I'm very interested in this model of partnering with community grassroots organizations or community small grant funds, such as the Black Women and Girls Fund that's led by Dr. Maria Johnson. And by doing that, we create a unique pipeline and identify opportunities that typically won't show up in your bank pipeline or your CDFI pipeline.
That's fantastic. And it's good to hear people have these new avenues and opportunities that are open specifically for them, especially when a lot of demographics of color have been held back and not able to access the resources that have been given largely to white communities over the history of this nation. And so when it comes to getting the word out, getting people more involved, also people realizing that they have these resources available, have you done anything on the ground in terms of reaching out to people?
Yes, so one of the things that we've done is build pipeline partnerships with a number of community organizations, especially in Detroit and Baltimore. Those are our two pilot cities for this work. And what we've done is just inform them about this work. So I participate on panels to kind of talk about impact investing in general. We have worked to do like joint documents with other organizations. And what we really want to do is just kind of get the word out there. To recognize that there's more than just your traditional grant or your traditional loan or your traditional equity investment. There are other tools, especially within the philanthropic community, that can be accessed. And we want to be able to kind of shed a light on those through the work that we're doing with Revolve.
Fantastic. That's really great. I just really think about all the assistance it can provide to a lot of communities where doors were otherwise closed. And so in terms of what's next, or at least what you all have lined up, do you have anything coming up very soon that you want the people to know about?
So right now, I would say we're in the midst of fundraising. So we have been able to secure about $1 million of capital. We're looking to raise up to $2 million and to continue to deploy more funds in the communities that we're serving. We are moving out of the Baltimore and Detroit pilot areas and expanding to a more national footprint. And so we're very excited about that. And so we welcome the opportunity to partner with philanthropic organizations around the country.
That's fantastic. And it does sound like there's a lot of potential opportunity. Have you noticed, is there any particular segments or areas, industries where people are looking for funding the most?
Yes, so really in the service industries, because if you look at the service industries that disproportionately people of color work in for a number of systemic barriers and reasons, it's very difficult to get loans if you don't have collateral. And so we're seeing a lot of interest with folks who are starting up service industries, professional services, those types of businesses at this point.
That's excellent. Fantastic. And in terms of kind of next steps for you yourself, because I know you're taking a wealth of experience, so to speak, in terms of creating this fund. Is this going to be your full-time thing, or are you going to venture into a whole new area as well?
So I actually serve as the Senior Vice President of Mission Investors Exchange, which is the leading network organization of impact investing philanthropic institutions around the country. And so I'm very passionate about that work. I'm very passionate about being impact investing. And so I have partnered with a strong fiscal sponsor, which is a statewide organization, Maryland Philanthropy Network, and to kind of help me run Revolve Fund. And then we also brought in an advisory committee of a number of experts in impact investing from around the country to also support this work.
Excellent. And in terms of the future of Revolve Fund, is there anything you see in terms of maybe even as you get more funding, moving into different branches or having specific targeted investments?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we have done with Revolve is really narrow in on recoverable grants, but we see the opportunity of moving up into providing loans or equity capital as we kind of build out the framework. But we really want to concentrate and focus on recoverable grants at this time.
All right, then, I understand very much so. And so in terms of what comes next for Revolve Fund and getting more people invested, interested, where can they go to find more information?
Very easily go to revolvefund.org or admin@revolvefund.org in terms of the email, but you can just reach any of us through the website or through that email.
Wonderful. And so if people are also looking possibly to uplift you, to provide funding, same address, same information?
Same address, yes.
Wonderful. And in terms of anything that has been very interesting for you in terms of founding this fund and where it's going and all of the help and support, do you have any great anecdotes or stories?
So I think the most important story I can say is that just how the philanthropic community has been so responsive to it. I spent a significant amount of time working on building out this fund. So maybe almost a year and a half of kind of building out, planning, bringing in the right experts to help me kind of think through these things. And it's been wonderful. I will say the philanthropic community at large has been warm and has been very receptive of this idea. And so.
That's great. Sometimes you often see that when things come in to uplift marginalized groups, people will start seeing it as a zero-sum game, as though the pie can only be so big. And thus, if you are willing to create more opportunity for others, then that means less for them. And so to know that they have welcomed you, that they are really working hard to make this change and to help you invest in primarily individuals of color who have been marginalized in our society and don't have as many access to resources is a very cool thing.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That's James Wahls. That's Revolve Fund founder. And thank you so much again. And what is that email address you had mentioned, or at least that website?
Revolvefund.org.
Excellent. Thanks so much, James.
Thank you for the time.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.